The broken fleet, the alien armada drifted through the void like dying giants. Ships that once burned bright with power now moved weakly, their hulls scarred and broken. Engines coughed out weak sparks. Weapon mounts hung loose, some twisted, some melted. Thousands of crew members watched in silence from cracked windows, fear heavy in their eyes. The war had not just damaged their ships, it had damaged their pride. The fleet was once the strongest in its sector. Other empires had feared its name. Now, after facing an enemy they barely survived, they were nothing but shadows. Their commanders debated in cold rooms. Some wanted to return home and hide their shame. Others wanted to find allies who could help rebuild. But the truth was cruel. Their technology was too complex for outsiders, and their rivals would only laugh at their weakness. Then, in the middle of despair, a strange proposal was whispered. A junior officer said it first. "What if we ask the humans?" The room went silent. No one laughed, but no one agreed either. Humans were new in the galaxy. They had no grand fleets, no mighty empires. They were considered small, rough, and unpredictable. The idea of asking them for help sounded foolish. Yet the fleet had no choice. Their resources were gone. Their repair yards were destroyed, and for reasons no one could explain, humans had offered help before, asking for nothing in return. So the Admiral, with a heavy heart, agreed. A message was sent across the stars. It was simple. "Our fleet is broken. We request repairs." The aliens expected silence, maybe even mockery. But the humans answered quickly. Their reply was calm, almost too calm. "Send your ships. We will fix them." The decision was made. The fleet, broken and humiliated, turned toward human space. Days passed in uneasy silence. Alien crews whispered to each other about what might happen. Some feared the humans would steal their technology. Others feared they would sabotage the ships. A few thought the humans might try to control them. But no one dared speak these fears aloud in front of the Admiral. The fleet limped onward, engines flickering, until the human shipyards finally appeared. What they saw shocked them. The human repair station was massive, larger than anything the aliens expected. It stretched across orbit like a steel continent, lights shining, machines moving even in open space. Docks opened like the jaws of a predator, ready to swallow broken ships whole. Strange machines floated around it, welding, cutting, building. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. The alien Admiral felt a knot in his chest. "So, this is humanity's workshop," he whispered. He had expected something small, something primitive. But this was not primitive. This was alive. The first alien warship entered the docks. Human engineers swarmed over it like ants. They moved with speed and precision, scanning every surface, marking every scar. The aliens on board watched from sealed chambers, forbidden to step outside. For the first time in history, their proud warships were in human hands. Hours passed, then days. The aliens expected slow repairs. They thought humans would take years to understand their designs. But something strange happened. The humans did not study the ships like outsiders. They acted like they already understood. With calm faces and steady hands, they tore down broken systems and replaced them with new ones. But the replacements were not alien-made. They were human. Engines were rebuilt with human alloys. Weapons were redesigned with human patterns. Armor was stripped away and replaced with something lighter, stronger. The aliens grew nervous. This was not repair. This was transformation. Whispers spread through the fleet. "They are not repairing our ships," one officer muttered. "They are rebuilding them." Every day the tension grew. The alien crews could not see the full details of what was happening. They were kept behind heavy blast doors, watching only shadows of sparks and glowing machines. They heard strange sounds echoing through the hulls, sounds of drills, new engines humming, power surging. It was as if their ships had fallen into the hands of something far more advanced than they ever imagined. At night, alien captains spoke to each other in hushed voices. Some wanted to pull their ships away before it was too late. Others argued that it was already too late. The humans had seen everything, touched everything. If they wanted to sabotage, they already could have. The Admiral remained silent. He did not admit it, but he felt the same fear. He wondered what kind of people could take a broken fleet and work so fast. He wondered if humanity was really as young and inexperienced as the galaxy believed. One morning, alarms rang through the dock. The aliens rushed to the observation windows, expecting disaster. Instead, they saw their first ship rolling out of the dock, but it was not the same. The hull gleamed with new armor. Strange patterns ran along its surface, glowing faintly blue. Its engines pulsed with a steady rhythm, stronger than before. The ship's shape was sharper, more dangerous. Even from a distance, the alien crew could feel the power radiating from it. The admiral's mouth went dry. This was his ship. But it was not his ship. The humans had promised repairs. What they had returned was something else. Something faster, something stronger, something human. And as more ships rolled out of the docks, each one transformed, a terrible thought grew in every alien mind. If this is what humans do when asked for repairs, what do they keep hidden in their own fleets? The silence was heavy, filled with fear and awe. The broken fleet was no longer broken, but no one knew what it had become. The silent workshops, the alien commanders had expected noise, arguments, and questions from the humans. Instead, they received silence. Once their damaged ships were pulled into the human shipyards, the aliens were locked away in assigned quarters, barred from entering the repair zones. The humans spoke little. They gave only short instructions. Stay here. Do not interfere. Wait, it was humiliating. These ships were their pride, their weapons, their homes. Now strangers walked freely across their decks while they were treated as guests, or perhaps as prisoners. The alien officers whispered angrily behind closed doors, but none dared challenge the humans. They had seen the size of the station. They had seen the power humming in its steel veins. This was no small workshop. This was a machine that belonged to a species far more confident than anyone believed. From their windows, the aliens could glimpse fragments of the work. Sparks danced in the dark like swarms of fireflies. Giant machines moved in silence, lifting engines as if they were toys, welding new plates with beams of pure light. Strange human drones hovered everywhere, scanning, recording, cutting. To the alien eyes, it looked less like repair and more like surgery, a calm, ruthless operation performed with steady hands. The days bled into each other. Yet every day, the aliens noticed the same thing: speed. Humans worked without pause. Teams rotated, machines never stopped, and the sound of construction echoed through every corridor. What normally took their own yards months seemed to take humans only hours. Fear crept into the alien minds. This was too fast, too precise. How could a young species do this? The alien admiral often stood at his window, hands behind his back, watching the silent workshops. His second-in-command once asked him quietly, "Do you think they are really repairing, Admiral, or changing our fleet into something else?" The Admiral did not answer. He only stared as another massive engine was lifted away from a ship and replaced with something smaller, sleeker, and far more powerful. Inside the quarters, alien crew members whispered about what they saw. One swore he had seen a human carrying a weapon blueprint, lines glowing with designs the aliens had never imagined. Another claimed the humans were testing something behind locked doors, something that made the hulls vibrate with a low, eerie hum. No one knew what was true. No one dared ask. The humans never explained. On the third week, the silence became heavier. The aliens noticed that entire sections of their ships were being stripped away and replaced with human structures. Entire weapon bays disappeared overnight. Communication arrays were taken apart and rebuilt with unfamiliar shapes. What are they doing to our fleet? A captain demanded in anger during a private meeting. This is no repair. They are rewriting us. Others agreed, but fear silenced their voices. They could do nothing. If they tried to leave, their broken engines would not carry them far. If they demanded answers, the humans might throw them out entirely. The aliens were trapped, forced to watch their fleet disappear into the human workshops, only to emerge as something unrecognizable. Suspicion spread through the ranks. Were the humans building secret controls into the ships? Would they seize the fleet when the upgrades were complete? Some believed so. Others argued that humans were too reckless for such long games. But none could explain the truth. The Admiral himself was restless. He had fought many wars, seen many species, but he had never seen this. Humans worked with a calm intensity, as if they were not repairing alien ships, but preparing for something greater. At times, he felt as if the humans were not helping the aliens at all. They were testing themselves. One night, the Admiral was woken by a deep vibration. The walls around him shook with power. He stepped to the window and saw it, a test firing. One of the alien destroyers was glowing with new engines, its thrusters pulsing with a strange light. The ship moved, not weak and broken, but alive. Faster, smoother, deadlier, he felt both pride and dread. Pride that his ship lived again. Dread that it no longer belonged to him. The days dragged on. The silence of the workshops became unbearable. No reports, no explanations, only results. Ships entered broken. They emerged glowing, their scars erased, their forms reshaped, and then came the whispers that chilled every alien to their core. A crewman claimed he overheard a human engineer speaking, "These ships will not just be repaired. They will be something the galaxy has never seen." The alien officers could not sleep after that. They stared at the ceiling, hearing the constant hum of human work above them, wondering what was being built around their lives. The Admiral finally gathered his officers. His voice was low but sharp. "We cannot stop them. We cannot fight them. So we wait. When our ships are returned, we will test them ourselves. And then we will know." But even as he spoke those words, a part of him knew the truth. These were no longer their ships. They were becoming something else. Something human. The workshops were silent. But the silence was not empty. It was heavy with secrets, with power, with change. And every alien watching knew it. By trusting the humans, they had opened a door they might never be able to close again. The return of the ships. The day came without warning. For weeks, the alien fleet had waited in uneasy silence. They had seen shadows of their ships moving through the workshops, half-finished and hidden by steel walls. They had heard the endless hum of human machines, but they had not seen the final results. No one had explained. No reports had been shared. The aliens lived in restless fear, uncertain if their ships would ever return to them, or if they already belonged to the humans. Then, one morning, the dock doors opened. The first ship emerged. At once, every alien heart froze. It was their destroyer. At least it carried the same shape, but it was not the same. The hull gleamed with strange silver alloys that caught the light like liquid metal. Glowing lines traced across its surface, pulsing like veins. Its engines burned with a steady, powerful light, far brighter than before. The ship no longer looked wounded. It looked alive. The crew who once served on it stared in silence, their faces pale. They whispered to one another, but none of them could call it by its old name. This was their ship, yet it was also something else. Reborn, the humans said nothing. Their engineers moved aside, letting the ship drift out of the dockyard, as if showing it off. The silence of the humans was more frightening than words. Moments later, another ship rolled out, and another. One by one, the entire fleet returned, but every ship was different. Some were sleeker, some heavier, but all carried the same human marks: strange armor, glowing systems, redesigned weapons. The alien fleet that had once limped into human space, broken and scarred, was now something unrecognizable. The alien admiral's voice shook as he whispered, "These are not repairs." Around him, his officers were speechless. They could not deny what they saw. Their proud fleet had been reforged into something sharper, stronger, faster. Their ships were no longer the same weapons of war they once commanded. They were now hybrid creations, carrying alien skeletons, but beating with human hearts. The silence in the command room was heavy. Some officers felt awe, others felt dread. The Admiral, however, felt both. When the first upgraded ship powered its engines, the effect was terrifying. The entire space around it trembled as it roared to life. The vibration was not violent, but steady, like the heartbeat of a predator ready to strike. "Look at it," one officer whispered. "That is no destroyer. That is something new," and the ships kept coming. Dozens of them. Carriers, cruisers, frigates, all reshaped by human hands. The alien crews felt a strange mix of pride and fear as they watched their vessels float past them like predators emerging from the dark. They had been given back their fleet, but it was a fleet they barely recognized. The admiral finally broke the silence. "We must test them." His voice was calm, but every word carried tension. "A ship may shine, but only fire proves its worth." The humans agreed instantly. Too quickly, almost as if they had been waiting for this moment, a test was arranged. One of the upgraded cruisers was chosen. Its crew hesitated to step aboard, but duty gave them no choice. They entered their old ship, now changed beyond recognition. The inside was different too. New consoles, smoother systems, strange human interfaces connected to alien designs. At first the crew struggled, but soon they realized something shocking. Everything was easier. The controls moved faster. The engines responded instantly. It was as if the ship itself wanted to obey. The test began. The cruiser was sent into a mock battle against captured raider ships, pirates who had long harassed alien space. Normally such raiders were difficult foes, fast and cunning. 3 of them approached, confident they would overwhelm the lone cruiser. What happened next silenced everyone. The cruiser moved like lightning. Its engines flared, and in a single burst it closed the distance. Its weapons roared, not with the same old power, but with something far stronger. The raiders barely had time to react. Within minutes, the first enemy ship exploded into fire. The second was torn apart by a storm of rapid shots. The third tried to flee, but the cruiser's new engines caught it easily. One final blast ended it. The battle was over in less than 10 minutes. The alien crews who watched could not believe it. Their ships had never moved like that. Their weapons had never fired with such speed. It was not just an improvement, it was a transformation. The alien admiral sat frozen. His officers looked to him, waiting for his reaction, but he said nothing. His eyes remained locked on the victorious cruiser. In his heart, he felt something he had not felt in years: fear. Because as impressive as the battle was, the question that haunted him was far greater. If humans could take our fleet and make this, what kind of fleet have they built for themselves? The silence in the command chamber grew heavier. The aliens were proud to have their ships back, but deep inside, a new fear was born. They now owed humanity more than they could repay. Their survival had come at a price, and though the humans had said nothing, their silence spoke louder than words. The admiral leaned forward, his voice trembling. "What have we invited into our galaxy?" The first test. The admiral gave the order quietly, but the entire fleet felt the weight of it. Their ships had returned, stronger and faster than anything they had ever known. But power meant nothing without proof. The fleet demanded a test. They needed to see if these upgrades were truly real, or if humanity had only dressed their ships in shining armor to hide deeper flaws. The humans did not resist. They agreed instantly, almost too eagerly. A field of captured raider ships was dragged into open space, stripped of command, but left operational enough to fight. The aliens watched nervously as the battlefield was prepared. It felt less like a test and more like a stage play, with humanity setting every scene. The chosen vessel for the trial was a heavy cruiser. Once it had limped into the docks with broken engines and half its hull torn away. Now it floated proudly, its armor gleaming with new alloys, its weapons humming with energy. Even from a distance, the alien crews could feel the raw power radiating from it, like heat from a rising star. The cruiser's crew was hesitant as they boarded. This was their ship, but it no longer felt like theirs. The corridors were lined with unfamiliar human designs. The control panels glowed with new symbols and smoother surfaces. The engines pulsed with a rhythm that none of them recognized. The ship was alive in a way it had never been before. The captain sat in his chair, his claws tapping nervously on the armrest. He had commanded this cruiser for years, but the seat now felt different beneath him. Lighter, sharper, as if even the chair had been designed for speed. "Bring the systems online," he ordered. At once the bridge lit up. The hum of power surged through every wall. The crew gasped as they saw their displays. Weapons loaded faster than ever. Engines were ready in seconds, not minutes. Shields shimmered into existence like walls of light, thicker than anything they had known. "It responds to us," one officer whispered in awe, "almost as if it is reading us." The captain swallowed hard. "Then let us see how it fights." The test began. 3 raider ships broke formation and moved in. They were fast and ruthless, the kind of predators that once gave the fleet endless trouble. Normally, even a heavy cruiser would struggle to hold them back, but this was no normal cruiser. The captain gave the command. "Engage!" The engines roared to life. The ship surged forward so fast that the crew was pushed back in their seats. The alien officers shouted in alarm as the cruiser spun with impossible precision, turning sharper than it had ever done before. It moved like a predator unleashed. "Target locked," the weapons officer reported. The first volley fired. But it was not the old, slow energy blasts they knew. The weapons sang with a higher frequency, a storm of light so fast the raiders' shields collapsed instantly. The enemy ship split in half, fire spilling into the void. The crew fell silent. Their hearts pounded. "Reload," the captain ordered. But the ship did not need time. The weapons were already recharged. The second raider tried to circle behind. The cruiser twisted with unnatural grace, cutting the distance. Another volley fired, precise and merciless. The raider exploded before it could even return fire. The last raider panicked and tried to flee. Normally, such ships were impossible to catch. They were built for speed, but the cruiser's new engines flared and the ship accelerated like lightning. The raider could not escape. One final shot ended it, scattering debris across the stars. The battle was over. Less than 10 minutes had passed. On every alien ship, silence followed. Officers stared at the screen, their jaws tight, their bodies frozen. Their cruiser had just destroyed 3 raiders without taking a single hit. What once would have been a desperate fight had turned into a massacre. The captain of the cruiser stood slowly from his chair. His claws trembled as he looked at his crew. "This is no longer the ship we knew," he said quietly. "This is something more." Back at the observation deck, the alien admiral clenched his hands behind his back. His officers looked to him for words, but he said nothing. His mind was racing. The humans had given them power beyond anything they imagined. But why? Around him, whispers grew. If they could do this to our ships in weeks, what have they already done to theirs? The admiral's heart pounded. He thought of humanity, small, underestimated, dismissed by the galaxy as reckless. And yet here they stood, holding the power to reshape entire fleets. The humans did not celebrate. They did not boast. Their engineers stood silently at the edge of the room, watching the aliens' reactions. Their faces were calm, almost unreadable. It was as if the battle meant nothing to them. The admiral realized something then. The test had not been for the aliens. It had been for the humans. They wanted to prove something, not just about the ships, but about themselves. He leaned closer to the glass, his eyes fixed on the glowing cruiser as it returned to dock. A chill spread through him. This was not repair. This was not even kindness. This was a message, and though the message was unspoken, every alien in the room could hear it clearly. This is only the beginning. The hidden message. The cruiser returned to the docks in silence. The alien crews expected cheers, horns, or a wave of victory calls. Instead, there was nothing. Only the low hum of the engines and the steady blinking of lights across the massive human station. The silence was heavier than celebration. The alien admiral stood tall, but inside he trembled. The test had proved everything. The humans had not only repaired their ships, they had transformed them. What once were tools of war had become something far deadlier, faster, smarter, stronger, but the question that haunted him was not what the humans had done, it was why. The alien officers filled the command chamber with whispers. Some were in awe, others were afraid. One muttered, "If this is what they do for us, imagine what they build for themselves." Another said, "They could conquer half the galaxy with this technology." The words spread like sparks in dry grass. The admiral raised his hand for silence. His voice was low but firm. "We owe them our lives. We owe them our fleet. But do not mistake this for kindness. Humanity has shown us something, and it was not mercy. His words chilled the room. Later, the humans summoned him. Not with fanfare, not with warning, just a simple message. Come to the hangar. The Admiral went alone. His officers protested, but he silenced them. If there was truth to be found, he would face it himself. The hangar was vast, stretching endlessly, filled with light and shadow. The air smelled of metal and fire, the breath of machines. At the center stood a single human engineer. He was not armed. He was not guarded. He held only a small case in his hands. The Admiral approached carefully. The human looked up and smiled faintly, but there was no warmth in it. Only certainty. Your ships are ready, the human said simply. His voice was calm, steady, almost too calm. They will serve you better than before. The Admiral studied him. Why? He asked, his voice echoing in the vast hall. Why give us this power? What do you gain? The human tilted his head slightly, as if the question was too small. Then he opened the case. Inside was a single data crystal glowing faint blue. He offered it without hesitation. This is the record of everything we changed, the human said. Your weapons, your engines, your shields, the design is yours now. You may keep it. You may study it. You may use it as you wish. The Admiral stared at the crystal, stunned. To simply give away such knowledge. No empire in the galaxy would ever do that. Technology was power, and power was guarded with blood. Yet here was humanity, handing it over as if it were nothing. Suspicion burned in the Admiral's chest. You are not fools, he said slowly. You know what this means. You know what we could do with this, the human nodded. Yes, we know. The Admiral's throat tightened. Then why? The human finally looked at him, with eyes that seemed too sharp, too steady. Because we want you to understand. What you saw today was only a fraction of what we can do, a taste. The galaxy thinks we are young, weak, naive. Let them think it. But you, he pointed at the Admiral, his voice lowering, you will remember. You will tell your people what humanity can build, what humanity will build. The Admiral felt a chill run through his bones. He realized then that this was not just repair. It was not even an upgrade. It was a warning. The human closed the case and stepped back. This was only the beginning, he said. His tone was calm, but the words struck like thunder. The Admiral returned to his fleet in silence. His officers rushed to him with questions, but he did not answer. He carried the data crystal in his hand, its glow reflecting in his eyes. As the fleet prepared to leave, the Admiral stood at the observation deck, staring at the stars. His ships floated proudly beside him, stronger than ever, alive with new power. They were ready to return home, ready to fight, ready to defend their people. But deep in his heart he knew the truth. They were no longer only his ships. They carried a message, a silent one, hidden in every engine, every weapon, every glowing alloy. A message the entire galaxy would one day hear. Humanity does not repair. Humanity reinvents, and with that thought, the fleet departed faster than it had ever moved before. The stars blurred past them, but the Admiral's mind stayed heavy with the human's final words. He whispered them softly to himself, words that would haunt him forever. This is only the beginning.